Peugeot 508 is one of the last big executive cars on sale. With a French twist, of course, it is a Peugeot after all. Now, sales of big cars like the 508 have been in decline in recent years with the rise in popularity of SUVs. But you'll still find rivals for the 508 like the Volkswagen Arteon, the Skoda Superb, the Audi A4 and the BMW 3 Series. This generation of the 508 has been on Irish roads since about 2019 and it got a facelift earlier this year. So I want to see what's new for this new version of the Peugeot 508. I'm Caroline Kidd and you're watching the Carzone YouTube channel. Before we get into the rest of the video, please click subscribe to stay up to date with all our latest videos, and please remember to give this video a like as well. You can find more Peugeots for sale over on Carzone.ie, Ireland's trusted motoring marketplace. So what about price? Well, this new 508 goes on sale from about €45,500. You can choose from petrol, diesel and plug-in hybrid as well. And isn't this just one of the best looking large cars on sale? With or without the facelift, it's a really good looking car. For this facelifted 508, the grille is a little bit different and you also have these new slimmer LED headlights and 3-claw daytime running lights. That's a new Peugeot signature. This car used to have the fangs on either side. It also gets the new Peugeot Lion Shield logo as well, just like all the other models in the Peugeot range. There are also some new paint colours for the 508, like this one, which is Eclipse Blue. And it's a standard colour, so you don't have to pay extra for it. There are a few different trim lines like Allure, there's also GT, and then the top of the range high performance Peugeot Sport engineered model. Now, what I'm driving here is the 1.5 litre diesel Allure model, and it retails for about €46,500. And I think it's a really sensible spec for the 508. And look at these very sensible wheels. They're 17-inch and it actually gives a really comfortable drive in this 508. Now, if you go for the GT model, you get 18-inch and then 20-inch on the Peugeot Sport engineered model. So at the start of this video, I mentioned a French twist. And well, that's that the 508 looks like a saloon, but it's actually a hatchback, or a fastback as Peugeot call it, which is a fancier name for a hatchback. But isn't it just stunning? What a beautiful car. And for this update, they've done a few little subtle tweaks. So there's a new illumination in those LED rear lights, and this black bar that connects the rear lights, that's also new. And Peugeot is now spelt out across that. Now, when it comes to practicality, that fastback design means that it's actually very practical. There's a big wide open space here, so it's much more practical than a saloon car really. There's 487 litres. It's not the biggest boot in the class, but I think that's a really generous space. And if you go for the estate version, you get 530 litres. The 508 gets frameless windows, which is a real premium design touch to this car. Now, there haven't been a huge amount of changes to the interior of the 508, but that's a good thing because it's still a stunning cabin, even after all these years. It feels very sporty and driver focused. You do sit quite low down in this car. You've got the compact steering wheel, you've got a full digital driver display above that, and it just wraps around you really nicely, this centre console, and you've got access here to your touchscreen. The material quality is also very good. There's lots of gloss black and the car does feel very well put together. When it comes to seat upholsteries, there's a few upgraded fabrics for this new version of the 508. If you go for this Allure model, you get a mix of fabric and synthetic leather. You go to the GT and there's a little bit more Alcantara. Now, on the Allure version, the seats are manually adjusted for the front and passenger seat. You do get power adjustment, but you do have to go up the trim levels to get heated front seats and power adjustment. There have been a few small changes for this updated 508. There's a new rocker switch here for the gear selection. There's also updated graphics for the digital instrument panel, and they've also updated the software for this 10-inch touchscreen. Now that comes with wireless Apple CarPlay, there's Android Auto, there's over-the-air updates as well. So it looks really good there in the centre of the dash. Can be a little bit fiddly to use and are a little bit complicated to go through menus. For example, to adjust the ventilation, it's all done by touch control. But you do have these really elegant piano style buttons underneath, so you can pull up shortcuts to different menus really quickly. There's lots of standard equipment. There's a reversing camera, there's keyless entry and start, there's dual zone climate control, and lots of standard safety features as well. When it comes to rear space, it's not the limousine style space that you might find in something like a Skoda Superb, but I still have plenty of leg room here. Now, headroom could get tight for taller adults because of that sloping roofline, but generally it's a nice enough place to sit back here. You do get vents, and there's also USB-C ports. There is, of course, an armrest with cup holders and a hatch that opens through to the boot. There are a few different engine options for this Peugeot 508. There's a 1.2 petrol, there's a 1.5 litre diesel, and then there's also a plug-in hybrid, and that's available in 2 states of tune. So there's one version with 225 horsepower, just like before, and then there's actually a new one now with 180 horsepower. So that lowers the entry price into a 508 plug-in hybrid. It's now about €50,000 to get into one of those. And no matter which engine you go for, they all come with an 8-speed automatic gearbox. I'm driving the 1.5 litre diesel, and it's got 130 horsepower, but I have to say it does feel more powerful than that on the road. So there's plenty of power and torque in this diesel 508. It also shifts really nicely with that 8-speed automatic, so it's a nice match for the car. It's a good smooth drive, it's very comfortable. So Peugeot has tuned the suspension for each different engine type. Covers the road really nicely. It's also very refined as well. It's not too noisy here in the cabin. Now, the diesel, of course, is just brilliant when it comes to economy. So my average is about 4.9 litres per 100 kilometres. That is really excellent. So it's still hard to beat a good diesel for good fuel efficiency. It's smooth and agile to drive. You've got the Peugeot compact steering wheel, so that just makes the car feel really agile and actually quite sporty. There's good body control through bends, so I think you'll enjoy driving this 508 as well.